Welcome to free CSCS and CPCS video course, the latest, CITB Health and Safety Lessons, 2021, UK. Lifting operations and equipment. Your employer must ensure the following. The lifting operation is properly planned by a competent person, often referred to as the appointed person, whose role is to develop or approve the lifting plan. The lifting operation is supervised by a competent person. The lifting operation is carried out in a safe manner. Poorly planned lifting operations can go wrong, and this may result in the following: fatalities or injuries to people involved in the lifting operation or to people either working in the area where the lift is taking place or under the arcs of movement of the crane. Damage or structural failure. Overturning of the lifting equipment. Accidents involving cranes and other lifting equipment are often caused by one or more of the following: using the wrong type of lifting equipment or equipment with the wrong rated capacity. Using lifting equipment incorrectly, unsafe technique. Failing to follow the agreed lift plan, system of work, for the task in hand. Poor assessment of ground conditions, overhead obstructions, or changing weather conditions, such as high winds. Lack of coordination of crane movements when more than one crane is operating, and their arcs of movement overlap. Lack of training of the crane operators and signalers. Lifting a load of an unknown and underestimated weight or unknown center of gravity. Poor inspection and maintenance of the equipment and accessories. What your site and employer should do for you. 1. Use only competent and authorized people to plan, supervise, and carry out lifting operations. 2. Provide lift plans and safe systems of work, and identify exclusion zones for all lifting operations and make sure that you are briefed and understand them. 3. Make sure that lifting equipment and accessories are suitable for the task, inspected, maintained and examined. 4. Make sure that lifting equipment and accessories are marked with safe working loads. 5. Provide you with information and training so you can carry out the lifting operation. What you should do for your site and employer. 1. Follow any lift plan and safe systems of work issued. Stop work and tell your supervisor if you cannot. 2. Only start work if you understand your role in the lifting operation. 3. Carry out pre-use checks on equipment and report any defects before starting work. 4. Do not start work until defected items have been properly repaired or replaced. 5. Only act as a slinger or signaler if you are trained, competent and authorized to do so. 6. Attend all briefings as instructed by your supervisor. 7. Do not enter any exclusion zones unless authorized to do so. 8. Store lifting equipment and accessories safely when they are not in use. Examples of lifting equipment and accessories. Lifting equipment is any work equipment, such as cranes, mobile and static, hoists, telehandlers and excavators, that is used for mechanically lifting or lowering any load, including people. Scaffold hoists and gin wheels. Passenger/goods hoists. Telehandlers. Excavators being used as a crane. Rough terrain forklifts. Crawler, mobile, and tower cranes. Mobile elevating work platforms. MEWPS. Lorry loaders. Inertia brake gin wheels, where the wheel brakes automatically if the rope is released, are now common practice and far safer than traditional gin wheels. There should be a lift plan for any operation being carried out by any form of lifting equipment. The detail of the plan will reflect the complexity of the operation. Work involving people at height or loads which are difficult to sling is more complicated and would require a more detailed lifting plan. Lifting accessories are items of equipment used for attaching the load to the lifting equipment. Chains, shackles, ropes, spreader beams, slings, eye bolts, hooks. Planning a lifting operation. All lifting operations must be properly planned by a competent person, sometimes called the appointed person, who will decide on how best to complete a lifting operation safely. This information will be recorded in a lift plan as part of the safe system of work. The lift plan will need to consider the following. This list is not exhaustive. Weight of load to be lifted. The ground conditions and surrounding environment, such as waterways, railways, and highways. Overhead hazards, for example, a power line. Height of the lift required. Type of lifting equipment to be used. Selection of lifting accessories, for example, chains and shackles. Lifting team, for example, crane operators and slingers/signalers. Level of supervision required. Means of communication, for example, hand signals or two-way radios. The lift plan will give information about any exclusion zones that are required to ensure the safety of people on site and off-site. You must not enter these zones unless you are authorized to do so by the lift supervisor. If you are involved in any lifting operation, you must be briefed on the contents of the lift plan before work starts. Inspections. A competent person must inspect all lifting equipment and accessories at suitable intervals, before first and every use, weekly and monthly. The frequency and type of inspection will depend on the potential for the item to fail. The inspections should include visual and functional checks. Thorough examination. A periodic thorough examination, over and above the inspections listed above, must be carried out by a competent person. This will normally be a qualified engineer and is a detailed inspection that produces a report on completion. The report should be kept on file at the same location as the equipment or accessory. Lifting equipment must be thoroughly examined as outlined below. When it is first used, unless bought brand new. If it is installed, after installation but before first use. If it is assembled, after assembly but before first use. At intervals not exceeding 12 months. Lifting equipment, used for lifting people, and all lifting accessories must be thoroughly examined every 6 months. AMEWP should be thoroughly examined at least every 6 months. Hand signals for signalers. The following images are industry-recognized hand signals for people directing the movement of lifting equipment. Start. Stop. Raise. Lower. Left. Right. You must not signal plant operators unless you are trained and authorized to do so. Horizontal distance. Vertical distance. Move backwards. Move forwards. Danger. End. The signaler should stand in a safe position, where they can see the load and can be seen clearly by the lifting equipment operator. They should face the operator if possible. Each signal should be distinct and clear. These signals have been reproduced from Schedule 1 of Health and Safety, Signs and Signals, Regulations. Working at height. About half of all fatalities on construction sites occur as a result of a fall from height. An average of 7 people die each year as a result of falling through fragile roofs. Over half of all reported specified injuries are due to either falls from height or a slip, trip, or fall on the same level. Selecting the wrong type of work equipment results in many falls from height every year. Many construction workers have suffered a life-changing injury as a result of a fall from height. Such an event impacts not only the worker but their family, lifestyle, and ability to earn an income. It is important that all work at height activities are adequately planned, risk assessed, and the correct equipment selected and used to reduce the risk of injury. What can you fall from? Many falls are from poorly secured ladders, faulty or poorly used step ladders or makeshift working platforms, which offer little or no fall protection. About 7 workers a year die after falling through fragile roofs. Others suffer serious injuries and disabilities as a result of falling. For all work at height, measures must be taken to prevent the risk of any fall that could cause injury. Work at height is work at any height, above or below ground level, where a person could fall and be injured. It also includes instances such as working next to, or in, an open excavation, because of the risk of falling in, or of something falling in on you if you are working in the excavation. You and your site employer. What your site and employer should do for you. 1. Avoid the need to work at height if possible. 2. Provide the correct work at height equipment and make sure it is inspected and maintained. 3. Provide a collective system to prevent falls, such as a scaffold, mobile elevating work platform, MEWP, or mobile tower. 4. Minimize any risk to you if there is a chance you could fall, such as by providing safety nets, safe landing platforms or, as a last resort, a safety harness and a suitable lanyard. 5. Give you information, instruction, and training so you can work at height safely. 6. Make sure that all work at height is carried out in accordance with a safe system of work and that you are briefed fully. What you should do for your site and employer. 1. Follow the agreed safe system of work, and ask questions if you do not understand. 2. Use only equipment and methods you have been trained in. 3. Make sure you carry out pre-use checks on your equipment. Report any defects to your supervisor immediately. 4. Not misuse any equipment. 5. Not take risks or shortcuts. 6. Stop and seek advice if anything changes or seems unsafe. Planning the work. A risk assessment must be completed for all work at height. The following should be taken into account. The complexity of the work being done. Who is doing the work and for how long? Weather conditions and surface conditions, such as a wet, sloping roof. How to raise and store materials and equipment. Proper precautions and controls must be in place. Choose the right equipment for the work to be done. People working at height must have the right mix of training, knowledge, skills, and experience, competence, and the work must be adequately resourced and supervised. The workforce must be told about the risks involved and the risk control measures to be followed. Equipment must be regularly inspected and maintained and defective equipment taken out of service. Emergency arrangements must be in place, including properly developed rescue plans, people trained in rescue procedures and suitable rescue equipment. Hierarchy for working at height. Step 1. Avoid working at height. Assemble on the ground and lift into position using a crane or by fixing guardrails to structural steel work on the ground before lifting and fixing at height. Step 2. Prevent falls from occurring. Use an existing safe place of work, parapet walls, defined access points, a flat roof with existing edge protection. Step 3. Prevent falls through providing collective protection, scaffolding, edge protection, handrails, podium steps, mobile towers, MEWPs. Step 4. Prevent falls through providing personal protection. Sing a work restraint travel restriction system that prevents a worker getting into a fall position. Step 5. Minimize the distance or consequences of a fall using collective protection, safety netting, airbags or soft landing systems. Step 6. Minimize the distance or consequences of a fall using personal protection, the last resort industrial rope access working on a building facade, or a fall arrest system, harness and fall arrest lanyard, using a suitable high-level anchor point. Preventing falls. If work at height cannot be avoided, the best way to prevent people falling is by using physical barriers and equipment. Use scaffolding, mobile access towers, MEWPs, podium steps or other proprietary edge protection systems. The minimum height of the top guardrail is 950 mm above the working platform. Gaps between guardrails and toeboards on the working platform must not be greater than 470 mm. Plastic barriers, netting or rope and pins are not suitable as edge protection as they are not rigid enough to prevent people from falling, unless they have been specifically designed for that purpose. Correctly set up working platform with ladder access. Requirements for working at height. Safe access such as a tower staircase or secured ladder must be provided. Edge protection such as temporary guardrails must be put in place. Remember that surfaces can become slippery in wet or frosty conditions. If you are working on or near to a leading edge, then measures such as a physical barrier or safety net should be installed. A harness and fall arrest lanyard must only be used as a last resort. Never work on any structure where there is no protection from falls. Voids and holes. All voids and holes, such as those listed below, where a person could fall any distance and injure themselves, must be protected. Floor and roof openings. Gaps between floor joists and roof trusses. Lift shaft openings. Service holes and risers. Open inspection chambers and other voids. Openings created during demolition. Open excavations. Openings created during site surveys. All openings must be protected with secure barriers, covers, gates or doors, which are secured in position and display the relevant warning signs. Never remove a protective cover unless authorized to do so and you are protected against falling whilst the cover is not in place. If a hole, gap, or void needs covering, you should report this to your supervisor straight away. 1. Properly constructed void protection, complete with proper signage. 2. Scaffolding edge protection constructed around a void, complete with a scaffold tagging system. Fragile roofs. There are many fatal and serious injuries from people falling through fragile roofs and roof lights. The following surfaces are likely to be fragile. Roof lights. Old liner panels on built-up sheeted roofs. Asbestos and fiber cement sheets. Metal sheets. Glass, including wired glass. Chipboard and plywood boards. Slates and tiles. Asbestos and fiber cement sheets are obvious, but fragile roof lights, which look like the more secure surrounding roof structure over time, are not so obvious. Many people are not aware that parts of a roof are fragile. You should not assume that a roof will support your weight or try to walk near the underlying supports. All fragile roofs should be considered to be unsafe unless additional protection has been provided. It is sometimes difficult to see a fragile surface, especially if a roof is dirty, weathered, covered by moss or has been painted. Buildings with a fragile material roof covering should show warning signage, as shown in the image below, but this will not always be the case. A safe system of work must be put in place and, as a priority, work on a roof, particularly a fragile roof, should be avoided where possible. An example of a safe system of work would be to work from underneath the roof using a mobile elevating work platform, MEWP. 1. Fragile roof and crawling board signs. 2. Using a MEWP to work underneath the roof. A safe system of work should also consider the following. Suitable access is provided, such as a stair tower or ladder, or a MEWP is used. If the work has to be carried out from above the fragile surface, specialist working platforms with handrails should be provided. These are designed to span the roof purlins and evenly distribute the loading applied. Physical barriers or covers around or on fragile surfaces, such as roof lights or skylights. The installation of safety netting, crash decks, or airbags underneath the roof. Anchor points, work restraint systems, fall arrest lanyards, and safety harnesses. Arrangements for emergency situations, including how a rescue will be carried out for casualties who have fallen into a safety net or are suspended by a harness. Never try to access or cross a fragile roof without a safe system of work. Types of access equipment. Ladders. Working from ladders should be considered as a last resort. They should only be considered for light work of short duration, less than 30 minutes is recommended, that does not involve carrying equipment or materials up or down, pulling or pushing motions, or the use of pressure, and where the use of other work equipment is not suitable. They are most often misused when used as a working platform. A risk assessment must have validated the use of a ladder to prove that it is not reasonably practicable to use other means or methods. It is essential that those who use ladders are trained and competent to do so. Always check they are in good condition before use. Report any defects to your supervisor. Ladders should never be used near overhead power lines. Ladders should never be painted as this can hide defects or damaged parts. If ladders are used, they must meet the following criteria. Be of the right type, Class 1 Industrial or N131 Trade and Industrial, Heavy Duty and Industrial use, for professional users. Be in good condition. Be placed on firm and level ground. Not be at risk of being struck by vehicles. Use outriggers if available. Be set at the right length and angle for the job, 75 degrees or a ratio of 1:4, 1 out to 4 up. Be properly secured, tied at the top. If being used as a means of access, extend 1 meter past the stepping off point. You should have 3 points of contact with the ladder at all times. Ladder at 75 degrees, 1 out to 4 up. Ladders are classified into 2 European-wide categories. Class Industrial or N131 Trade and Industrial, Heavy Duty and Industrial Use, for professional users. N131 Domestic, for non-professional users. For domestic use only, and should never be used in a construction environment. Class 1 Industrial or N131 Trade and Industrial ladders are recommended for use in construction environments as they offer the highest duty rating. Step ladders. There are many types of step ladder on the market. Some offer good fall protection and others less so. Step ladders should only be considered as suitable in the following circumstances. Where a risk assessment has shown the use of other more suitable equipment is not reasonably practicable. The work does not involve pulling or pushing motions. The work does not need pressure to be applied. The work is of a short duration, less than 30 minutes. Wherever possible, platform steps should be the preferred option over traditional swingback steps. Step ladder with integrated side guard rails for additional protection. Always check they are in good condition before use. Always use on firm, level ground. Always make sure they are fully extended and that the user faces towards the steps. The step ladder and you should always face the work. You should not need to twist your body to face the work, as doing so would side load the steps. 3 points of contact should be maintained where possible. It is essential that those who use step ladders are trained and competent to do so. Report any defects to your supervisor. Never overreach or apply a side loading. Never stand on the top 3 treads of any step ladder unless it is designed to be used that way. Podium steps. Podium steps have become a popular piece of access equipment and are a safe and efficient means of achieving low-level access if used correctly. They are a safe and adaptable form of access equipment, with a safe working platform if used correctly. They allow you to work from the working platform facing every side without it becoming unstable. Some podium steps are fitted with power to allow you to adjust the height easily. Some are fitted with anti-surfing features which prevent you from pulling yourself along when you are on the equipment. It is essential that those who build and use podium steps are trained and competent to do so. They can be unstable and topple over if not built or used correctly. You must always use the brakes when using towers and podium steps. Do not pull yourself along when you are inside it. Podium steps in use, correctly. Podium steps in use, correctly. Mobile access towers. Mobile access towers are a safe and adaptable form of access equipment if used correctly. Unfortunately, many access towers are not erected or used correctly, and, as a result, become unstable and are the cause of many accidents. You should hold a Prefabricated Access Suppliers and Manufacturers Association, PASMA, or equivalent qualification to erect, alter, or dismantle a mobile access tower. The training should cover how to reduce common risks associated with this type of equipment and include information on the following. Safe working on a mobile tower, with toe boards and guard rails in position. Manufacturer's instructions for safe use. Positioning of the equipment, it must be positioned on suitable, firm, level ground. Safe working on a mobile tower, with toe boards and guard rails in position. Checks made for weak areas, such as inspection chambers and lids, stop tap covers and so on. Making sure it is not being used close to an overhead power line where a person could make direct or indirect contact with the power line. Using locking wheel brakes. Fitting of advanced guard rails from a lower level to provide edge protection at the level above, without putting the operative at risk during installation. Checking that guard rails and toe boards are fitted, these must not be removed. Assessing loading capability, how much weight can be placed on any platform. Considering whether bad weather, such as strong winds, rain, or snow, will cause problems. Assessing the chance of the tower being struck by mobile plant or other vehicles. Using barriers and signs to create a safety zone around the tower, to prevent other workers or the public from entering the work area. You must make sure of the following. Towers are not overloaded. Only the internal ladder is used to access the decks. Working platforms are not fitted too high, so that guard rails are too low. Prevent and prohibit overreaching. Wheels are locked when the tower is being used. If you are only working on a mobile access tower and not involved in building, altering, dismantling or moving it, you should receive a toolbox talk on the risks and hazards associated with your work as a minimum. A toolbox talk will not give you the knowledge, skills, experience, or authority to build, adapt, dismantle or move the tower. Mobile elevating work platforms. Scissor lift type MEWP. Cherry picker type MEWP. IPAF powered access license. IPAF Operator's Safety Guide. You should have access to the operator's manual for the machine you are using. Mobile elevating work platforms. Scissor lift type MEWP. Cherry picker type MEWP. IPAF powered access license. IPAF Operator's Safety Guide. You should have access to the operator's manual for the machine you are using. Scaffolding. Scaffolding must only be built, altered, or dismantled by trained and competent scaffolders. All working platforms must have double guard rails and toe boards fitted. Keep the scaffold working platform clean and tidy. These areas should not be used for storage unless specifically designed and designated for this purpose. You should always follow the safe loading information. Brick guards must be fitted if materials are stored above toe board height or if there is a risk of tools or materials falling and striking someone below. You must never interfere with scaffolds or remove any components, no matter how simple it. You must never overload scaffolds. Good example of a warning incorporated into a physical barrier: do not access scaffolding if you see the sign. Wire brick guard v/ith double guard rails and toe board. Employee prosecuted for dangerous work at height. A steel erection firm's employee has been sentenced at Manchester Magistrates Court after he admitted working unsafely at height on a hotel development in central Manchester. The Magistrates Court heard that a member of the public had contacted the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, claiming that a man had been seen balancing on scaffold tubes in the rain while working on the roof of the multi-story hotel. HSE inspectors later found the employee working on the roof. An investigation by the HSE found that the employee had climbed up the scaffold to hammer the steel beams into place and had not used the tower scaffold that had been made available for him. There was also a full-time scaffolder on site, available for any of the contractors to use, to make sure safe working platforms were in place. The employee in question pleaded guilty to breaching Section 7 of the Health and Safety at Work etc. Act 1974 and was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment, suspended for 18 months. He was fined £1,400 and ordered to pay costs of £2,939.18. After the case, the HSE inspector said, "This case dealt with a serious work at height risk, which could have led to a fatal incident. The particular employee failed in his duty to protect his own safety while at work, and also placed others at risk had he dropped any tool from the position he was seen in, some 27 m above street level. During the HSE's investigation he said that he did not appreciate how high he was. Never before in my career as an HSE inspector have I seen such a staggering disregard for personal safety. It is a matter of pure luck that no one was injured or killed. My thanks go to the member of the public who reported their concern to us, as they have been instrumental in saving a life and arguably that of anyone below him at that time. Source HSE. Fall arrest. Fall arrest systems include soft landing systems, safety netting, crash decks and safety harnesses. If falls cannot be prevented, then the risk of injury must be minimized. Arresting falls by means of harnesses and fall arrest lanyards must be considered as a last resort and is only acceptable when other methods, further up the work at height hierarchy of controls, have been considered and ruled out. The safe system of work must contain a procedure for emergency rescue. Harnesses. Fall restraint and fall arrest harnesses are a type of personal protective equipment, PPE, and should only be used if falls cannot be prevented by physical barriers or minimized by using collective arrest systems, soft landing systems, such as nets or airbags. Harnesses can be used to prevent a fall from occurring, fall restraint, and to minimize the consequences of a fall, fall arrest. Fall restraint is preferred to fall arrest. It is better to prevent the fall than arrest it. Choosing the correct type of harness and lanyard to be used is vital. Your employer should take into account where it is being used, how far the wearer may fall, any obstructions they may hit and any pendulum effect, swinging from side to side after the fall has been arrested. You must receive formal training before using a harness and lanyard. It is vital you know how to inspect a harness for damage, how to fit it properly, where to attach it and where not to attach it. Never use a harness to work at height unless you have been trained. A harness and lanyard could be all that prevents you from falling to your death. Make sure you clip onto a suitable anchorage point at all times. There must be an effective rescue plan in place in case a person wearing a harness falls. They will need to be rescued quickly. When someone's fall is arrested and they are suspended in a harness, they can experience a condition known as suspension syncope, where the person suspended faints and could suffer further complications. If a person has been suspended in a harness, for any length of time, an ambulance must be called, for a professional medical assessment. Thank you for watching and good luck for your test.